Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome back to more iRacing. Yes, it is the start of 2024, at least in the sim. We're back today taking on some of the new content. We have got the all-new Audi R8 LMS Evo V2 GT3 car. Yes, the original R8. It's finally gone. Rest in peace. I did quite a few endurance races in that car. I'll be honest, it wasn't my personal favourite GT3 car, but it was very much loved on the sim. Now when are we going to get rid of that Ford GT and give us a Mustang or something, iRacing, please. Desperate in need of the new car. But we have also got an all-new circuit. Yes, Mugello has finally come to iRacing. Of course, many motorbike fans will be well aware of this circuit. Formula 1 raced here once as well, and for many, many years, it basically just was a test centre for Ferrari. So I'm looking forward to combining these two things and seeing how we get on today. Honestly, I don't know how GT3 cars will handle here. I think they'll work quite well, but I've always associated this place with either much higher downforce or, weirdly, TCR cars. Right, so first thing we've always got to do then is a quick sound check. I'm guessing, obviously, V10, this thing's going to sound good. Which it still does. Sounds a little bit deeper than the older car, which is quite a nice little addition as well. I'm going to guess it sounds all but identical to the Lamborghini Huracan, which it does. As you would expect, you know, identical engines in these two cars. Maybe there's a slight different configuration in the exhaust, but obviously you're always going to end up with these two cars almost identical. But yeah, it kind of feels a bit weird having the Audi R8 finally, well, the new version, well, finally in iRacing, as those are some sausage curbs. Because, of course, the R8, the road car anyway, being discontinued now. Audi have announced it is going to be disappearing. So it looks like we're going to be hopefully getting a new flagship Audi supercar in the future in the real world as well. But yeah, Mugello, though, I'm really, really looking forward to doing some racing on this venue. Like I said, I feel like it's going to suit Formula cars or TCR cars more than this. But you never know what might happen. They're probably going to throw a lot of stuff at this track in the first season. Kind of see what sticks and everything like that as we make our way through the Arrabbiata corners. Now, of course, I've only really ever driven this track on Forza Motorsport. I might have done a little bit on maybe a MotoGP game back in the day, but I don't remember doing so in a long, long time. So, yeah, kind of my only real experience of this venue is from Forza. So, of course, yeah, finally playing it on a laser scan is going to be very, very fun. However, I am probably also going to have to take the Mercedes Formula 1 car around here as well, just for a little bit of a show run as well. But yeah, hoping obviously as we head into the new year, obviously to make a bit more content on iRacing. Of course, the new season dropping next week, so we'll definitely be diving into that as well then. But first impressions of both track and car, bearing in mind this is on a completely baseline setup, I'm quite impressed actually with this thing. It feels very, very hunkered down. The old R8 felt very, very loose at the rear end. Maybe as we start pushing this thing a little bit more, we will experience that oversteer a bit more around the lap. But yeah, this thing feels very, very settled. And Mugello actually weirdly feels wider than I was expecting it. I thought this track was going to feel a whole lot more narrow than apparently it really is. Maybe that's just obviously Forza didn't do a good job of it, and of course watching it in the real-life 2020 Grand Prix, I'm sure it feels quite narrow in a Formula 1 car. But, whoa, got to be careful there. I've got to get the car off that curb before I try and tip it in. But yeah, these corners, though, so much fun, of course. Some of them flat, some of them a bit of a blender throttle. You can have some big, big high-speed crashes around this section of the circuit, as Lance Stroll found out a couple of years ago. But I think that section as well could be very, very fun in a prototype as well on iRacing, which hopefully, yeah, we're going to try and do a little bit more with in the near future. Track limits, as we pick up, I think that was my first 1X, fairly standard. I think it's just going to be white lines everywhere, which is quite nice. I feel like what we're going to see on iRacing a lot more now is obviously where Formula 1 has tightened up their track limits. They're probably going to do a lot more just to the white line with newer tracks, obviously, when you exclude the US, because obviously the US has always got to do things differently, and track limits are always more of a recommendation than a requirement across the pond. That final corner, though, definitely you still notice that understeer slightly with the engine being at the back of the car. So yeah, got to be very, very careful through there to try and make sure that the car is hunkered down. But yeah, I think this is going to be a very, very popular track in the sim, of course. The car will probably be very, very popular as well early doors. You know, we're getting a lot of GT3 cars at the moment, so it's nice to get sort of a more fleshed out GT3 roster. You know, no one was really driving the 4GT anymore, so this thing kind of did often stick out a bit like a sore thumb, considering I think we've had 3 Ferraris in the time, 3 GT3 Ferraris in the time it's finally got them to update the R8. There we go, that was a lot better through there, and we even managed to trim the inside curb a whole lot better as well there. Yeah, this thing is so fun to drive. You feel the downforce working. You know, these more up-to-date GT3 cars, you know, GT3 has got quicker over the years, so, you know, it's nice that we finally feel like that downforce is working a little bit more as well. And of course, you know, especially with Lemans going to GT3s next season, I think it's going to be very, very cool. And it's going to be, you know, certainly don't think GT3 has had a slump in recent years, but I think it's going to bring a bit of a renaissance as well if iRacing can get the ILMS series back up and running again. Of course, you know, all the stuff with motorsport games, but yeah, that's not what we're here to talk about today. But yeah, I think Mugello, though, exactly as we would expect. Like I said, luckily I do know my way around here. You know, we've had a few tracks in recent seasons that have certainly thrown up a bit of a surprise. Leadenham still cannot stand that track. Definitely, in my mind, was not probably worth the purchase. I haven't really done it in many cars probably worthwhile. But yeah, lap times are already down into the low 150s. I'm sure we'll hopefully go under that in this session. Top times are probably going to be, you know, with a setup, everything else, with a much quicker driver, 46s, I would have thought, sensibly. Maybe even quicker than that as well. There we go. Can still definitely get that understeer and oversteer out of the car. But yeah, I think this thing, obviously, first season is going to be very, very popular. But, you know, it does kind of raise the question, are we going to get the McLaren 720S? I think that's going to be really, really important quite soon. Because that thing now is probably going to be the one that sticks out like a sore thumb. Are we going to see the removal of the 4GT as well? I think that's going to be very, very interesting. Because, of course, effectively now, you've got a pretty up-to-date roster, haven't you, in the GT3 cars? You've got this, you've got the Lambo, you've got the new Ferrari, you've got the updated Mercedes. You know, you've already got, you've got the BMW M4 that's, no, it is pretty much the same era, isn't it? Same era as the Merc. So I think you've got a pretty good roster of GT3 cars. Do you need the 4GT and the McLaren sticking out like a sore thumb? Will we see the 720S come anytime soon? We certainly hope so. And hopefully, you know, as well, I'm staggered they're not leaning more into the IMSA license. You know, why haven't we got the Lexus GT3 or something like that? I know Lexus are always a bit funny about having their cars in games that aren't called Gran Turismo. But it would be nice to try and get a couple more in. Maybe, you know, an Aston Martin GT3 car as well. But, yeah, let's try and go for one flying lap then. I'll let you guys listen in to the audio. We'll try and get a bit of an improvement. See if we can go sub 150. making our way at the final corner then. That's felt like a pretty tidy lap for the most part. Definitely still a little bit more time to find, but this is a fantastic little combo on the sim there. Up over the line. Oh, we're not quite going to go sub 150. 2/10 out there. I thought that was going to be enough. We might just have to go for one more quick run. But yeah, do I think car and track are going to be worth it? Track, absolutely. I think this could be a new real gem in iRacing that kind of gets a lot of interest. Car-wise, if you're racing GT3s, it's going to be popular early on. You know, I would have thought just like the old R8, it's going to be around in a lot of series as well. You know, your VLNs, your VRSs, your ILMSs, all that kind of thing. So if you're looking, obviously, if you haven't got an up-to-date GT3 car and you liked the old Audi, this one, you know, is probably going to be a pretty safe bet there. Feels a little bit more drivable as well, which I'm sure will be good for a lot of people. I might use it for the first season, but generally speaking, I'm not a big fan of the way the mid-engined GT3 cars drive. I don't feel like I can get the most out of them. So it's probably not going to be a car that, unless sort of my mates want to do a big endurance race like Daytona in the new year, that I'm going to drive too much. But you never know what might happen there. But yeah, like I said, I think Mugello, this track is absolutely fantastic. You know, it's a proper old school circuit that hopefully is going to provide some good racing. Maybe worth waiting and seeing, you know, depending on the series you're doing, whether it's going to be worth picking it up and jumping in for the first season there. But one more corner to go. Am I going to be able to improve again? I just need to find another 1/10 of a second. Oh, it took a bit too much speed on the way in. Will I be able to carry the speed on the way out? I don't think I have. I think we're going to improve again, but it's still not going to see us under the 1:50 there. But yeah, I must admit, I'm quite impressed by the way the Audi handles there. A 150.1 is the best we're going to be able to manage there. Definitely a lot more time to find. And shout out as well, this track is in a beautiful part of Italy, and I feel like iRacing has done it justice as well. I'm intrigued to have a look at the new version of Okayama as well in my spare time. But yeah, they've done a fantastic job with the way everything looks around the venue. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on the new content down below. I found a sausage curb there. But yeah, we'll be back very, very soon with more sim racing content. A massive thank you to all of my YouTube members and my Patreon supporters for their continued donations to help my work. These things go much further than I think a lot of you ever realise, and allow me to continue making content full-time here on YouTube. So if you want to support me from as little as £1 a month and be featured on all of these end clips, either click the join button next to the subscribe or head over to my Patreon. There's a link down in the description.